What do you think? We made it live one more time. 10 seconds in. Say just let me know if you are here. I'm watching and not seeing anyone yet, but I know there are several of you trying to get in. So hopefully you'll be able to, whether it be on your phone or your computer. I wish I could give you more advice on the other end as to how to go about doing that. And I wish this thing would let me really this thing would let me share things a little bit different, but it doesn't. It doesn't give me hardly any options for that. I've got copy link, but you copy link and I've got to go out. And I'm live. That's simple. Live again. It's always good to know when you're alive. Let's see here. I'll give this just a couple of minutes. If nobody's able to come back in, we'll just have to let it go for the night. I'll make plans to go live with a real big session. One that we can schedule. That's going to be the real way to do it. Schedule it and just say that I'm going to go live a certain time, a certain date. And we're going to discuss a certain topic, which I think a great topic for discussion right now for us as transplants is going to be I guess just comparing a little bit where we are. So if you say, I'm 6 months out, I feel great, I'm headed back to work, that's probably going to vary a lot from someone who says I'm 5 years out and I still have bad days and I'm not able to work. I mean, every situation is different, but I'd just like to kind of discuss some of that because I think we can boil it down and kind of start getting a little better grasp, if you get that, or idea as to what those different outcomes are and maybe why they're occurring. So whoever was able to pop in just then, I missed you popping in, saw you come in. So Manny Rosenberg, yes. Hey Jim, do you remember Eden? Yes, I do. I know Eden has been trying to get in. She's been trying to get in the chat window, and hopefully she can in a minute. So who all do we have right now? I know we got another one popped up. Manny Rosenberg, Eden is nuts. So you think Eden is nuts, huh? Are you going to help Eden get in? Anyway, I'm hoping we can kind of get together in these live streams and build us a little bit of a community, for lack of better terms. I know we have the Facebook groups, and I know we have that, but it's always better at times to be able to sit down and to ask questions of someone face-to-face, ask questions of someone who's been there and does that. I spend the vast majority of my week, almost all of my time, helping transplant patients, going to hospitals, meeting with them face-to-face, as well as what I've been doing lately on my YouTube channel, making videos that I think are important, videos that I think are profitable to us as transplant patients, trying to address subjects that we need to know and trying to address them kind of in time. One example of that is the last 2 videos I've done have been about getting the flu shot or preventing the flu. You say, why is that? Well, flu season. Flu is beginning to pick up in our area and it's beginning to move around. I'm in Alabama, so we got flu in Alabama. We got flu that I know about in Texas and in North Carolina and in several other states. And so with those, flu viruses coming around, before this thing turns epidemic, us transplant patients, we need to be protected. So whether you're for or against the flu shot, you make that choice right quick, and then you decide if you're for the flu shot, then you go and get a flu shot. You've got to. And then, like I said in a program I put out this morning, even with that being said, even with that being done, you need to then protect yourself by educating yourself, knowing what the symptoms of the flu and other common colds and those types of things are. You need to inform your transplant teams. If you're a transplant patient, let them know that, hey, someone near me is sick. I'm going to be around them X amount of hours each day. Maybe they live on the same household, same roof. And so you inform them that they are sick, they've got the flu, and because I don't need it, what can you do? And then you can next medicate yourself. And more than likely, your transplant team, once you tell them someone else in the household is sick, they're going to turn around and give you a box of Tamiflu. And I don't see mine laying here on the studio desk right now, but it's here somewhere. But they're going to give you a box of Tamiflu, and you go ahead and take that Tamiflu. It'll be a preventive dosage, be 75 milligrams per day instead of the 150. There we go. Eat a case and you're back. Hey to you. Glad you made it back in. Hopefully you'll be able to stay. But about 75 milligrams a day. It would be twice that if you were taking a good. Your heart transplant patient, it would take about twice that to prevent the flu. I mean, to stop the flu, but only the preventative maintenance dosage, like I say, about 75 milligrams a day. So take it once a day. To the first day. You know what? I get it right. Take it once a day. Once a day. And it generally will do the trick. At least prevent. If not, if you get the flu, it will shorten it tremendously. So you may keep it down, even immunosuppressed. You may keep it down to a 2-day flu, and that's a lot better than the 10-day flu or the 14-day flu or the everyday you're dead flu. Okay. So, but the two of you are in here. I know. I'm assuming both of you are awaiting or have had transplants at this point, which is right. Edacassin? Edacassin? Is that better? Edacassin? Okay, you're in the middle of the evaluation process for a heart. Is that right? For a heart? Okay. I think we've spoken a little bit before, or maybe just me commenting on some of your posts or something like that. I'm not sure, but I know this. It's a hard road, that evaluation. If they're doing it right, and I would hope that they're doing it right, it's going to be grueling. I plan on making a video. Matter of fact, I talked to one of my coordinators today that I work with about getting me the information package for it, but about making, that's all right. You do that and type, do whatever you have to, but I talked to the coordinator today about getting the new package on what the typical evaluation process consists of. Obviously it consists of blood work, it'll consist of EKGs, echocardiograms, heart caths with angioplasty added to that, biopsies, heart biopsies, but there's so many more tests. Tests where they really just do entire bone scans. They scan every bone in your body from the top to the bottom to be sure that it can be scary, but it's not that scary, I promise you. They're big major tests, but here's the way that I looked at it. The evaluation itself, since they do look at everything, and I mean everything, bone density, nerve conduction study, you name it, they do it. They send you to the dentist, have your teeth checked, send your eye doctor, have your eyes checked, send your ears, ear doctor, have your ears checked. They check everything top to bottom. So one of the things you come away with then at the end of that evaluation is this, and that is very simply that yes, I've got a problem with my heart in our case, and I need a new heart, but they've cleared you on everything else. You see, the general public walking around, they don't know but what they have cancers growing in them or on them. They don't know that what they have some sort of bloodborne diseases. They don't know all the things that may be going on in their body, but you do, because you have that extensive evaluation being done. They're putting you through the ringer, but it's for good reason. You come out of this, and what you find out is, okay, the only thing wrong with me is my heart. Everything else is fine, so there's no worries. So you kind of get for that evaluation process, which can last anywhere. If you're inpatient for it, they can get it done in a week. Outpatient, it could take as much as 3 to 4 weeks, going back and forth to clinic and having to arrange all those appointments. But if it gets done in either of those time frames, but especially in the week, within a week, you've been checked out for pretty much everything. Being a diabetic, depending on the transplant center, and especially the new wave of things that's coming, I don't think it will make you completely ineligible. Someone may be telling you that at this point, but I know in my transplant center, you would not be ineligible. All they would be looking for is a well-managed diabetes. So if you could honestly show where you've been doing well in managing that, whether you're taking insulin shots, or adjusting your diet, whatever is needed there, whether you're on an insulin pump even, which is actually a plus. I mean, it shows you how sick you are in that area, but at the same time, it lets them know that, hey, she's managing this the best that she can, and this is the best management way possible too, an insulin pump. It's more accurate. It takes care of things kind of more or less on its own. I know it's not that easy, but I don't think that you being a diabetic will cut you completely off from making it through the process. There may be that they have to come back and check some things out again and then redo that, but I don't think straight up as a diabetic. Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that, of course, but a lot of people miss that many times stress can really have a lot to do with where your blood sugar stands. And so the diet is going to be number one. Taking your insulin, if you have that, which you do, is going to be number two. But then there's also a whole level in there where stress comes in, and that's a problem because obviously you're going through a stressful time. I mean, people do not get told that they need heart transplants or any organ transplant and just kind of take that like, it's no big deal. And then once they do get to that point of needing it, there's the added stress like we're going through now, or you are, of the evaluation process. But I've been through the evaluation process myself 4 times, okay? 4, if you can see that. 4 times I've been through the evaluation process. And it got easier every time because I knew what to expect every time. And the reason it took 4 times is because the first 3 times when they would test me, I would come kind of borderline, where they would say, he might be a good candidate for transplant now, but he can wait. And I was in the side of the thing of saying, I want to wait. If I can wait, let me wait. If I can do this another day, let me wait. Medical technology, medications, everything's going to get better and better throughout the years. And if I can have it in 2013 as opposed to when they wanted to first do it in 2009, I'm going to be better. Oh yeah, absolutely. It is by far the most emotional, stressful time you can be involved in. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be similar to someone hearing that they've got cancer. And I'm not trying to take away from cancer patients. Obviously, we all have those in our family. Maybe you've been one, I don't know. I'm not trying to take away from them, but here's the way I explain that. If a person is told that they have cancer, if they're told that they have cancer, there are generally, in the beginning of that, several options. There are several options out there to treat that cancer, whether it be chemo, radiation, surgeries, a combination of all 2 or 3. And there's a possibility that they could beat any of it, anything. But when you're told that your heart is going out, your heart is in failure, bad failure, and you need a transplant, there's not a patch for that. They can't just patch in and give you some temporary solution, especially when you're not already responding to medications. And so that, I think, having the news told that you need a new heart, the most important organ in your body outside of your brain, I think that's more difficult than hearing about cancer. Yeah, your dad died from cancer and also had to go through all that. Yeah, it's very, very painful. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm not taking away from that at all. I'm just saying the initial shock, I think, is at least equal to, if not more. And the way that I considered that is, I was riding down the road with a friend of mine. His dad was dying with cancer at the same time I was waiting on a heart transplant. And my friend was sympathizing with me. He said, I know you and my dad have a lot in common now. You're both having to face death. And I know it's very hard. And he was being nice. And I said, look, his name was Cliff. I said, look, Cliff, I said, I don't put that in the same category. And he looked at me funny. And I said, I don't put it in the same category because your dad is in stage 4 cancer. They've already said there's nothing else they can do. He's going to die. I'm in stage 4 heart failure, but they've already said there is something they can do. It's a transplant, and I'm going to live. And provided that transplant comes, I would, and I did. So, yeah, but a shock. I saw you put up there, shock. Oh, yeah, the shock of it. And again, I was blessed because I was a congenital patient from birth. I grew up knowing that this might be a possibility. Most patients are not in that place. Most patients get the shock. There's a heart attack. There's a virus, there's something that's happened injury-wise to their heart. Maybe they've even injured it in an accident, and boom, they hear the news. It's very tough. The doctor said it may come to that point. Yeah, come to that point of needing transplant. And as long as people always remember, and I always say this, transplant, to a massive heart attack. Yeah, well, we don't need that. We don't need that. And I can feel you there too, because I was about, I guess about 2 years into this journey, not listed yet. Remember, going through some of these evaluations and then deciding I didn't need one. When the doctors, I started going into VTAC, ventricular tachycardia, which they call the rhythm of death, which drops people instantly. They never flinch, and terrible, terrible way to have a heart attack if you don't have one. And but VTAC's very, very dangerous. They went ahead and put in the ICD to protect me. So I was a beat or two from death the whole time. So you're saying you worked and didn't know. You had a heart attack already, yeah. And there's always the potential for another, because you still got the same heart, you still got the same anatomy, you still got the same, vessels and all of that goes along with that, all the same arteries. Do they believe maybe there's some clogging in there, some like that? Fell in the shower, thought I broke my ribs. Yeah. How many times have I heard that from patients where somebody thought they broke ribs? And they say that's about the only equal pain to it. It's terribly painful, but it's about that kind of an equal, stabbing, crushing type pain as broken ribs. Well, that's a plus, actually. The stents, when it comes time for transplant, obviously that stuff will come out, but the stents do their job pretty well for a shorter period of time. I don't think a stent is something you want to live with for 20 years, albeit some do, but a stent does help a lot for a shorter time. Get things opened up, get the blood flow restored quickly enough to let that organ continue to function somewhat. Yeah. I wore my ICD for 3 years. Eventually, once I was listed on transplant list, wore an IV bag of Milrinone for 10 months. Continued to be at home, continued to travel and do a lot of things, but I had to wear that 24/7 fanny pack, which looked like junk on me. pacemaker defibrillator. Yep, had the pacemaker defibrillator ICD implanted right up here. Of course, it's gone. I just have a scar now. They pulled that out at Transplant. Kind of ashamed. I had it put in. Cost almost $116,000, and then they took it back. I figure somebody else has got it. Replaced 1 times 4. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the positive things in it though is you've already found a team that's going to be on top of things and aggressive enough to deal with you. Yeah, hope you don't get shocked. When they placed mine, my main cardiologist came into the room, and I asked him how it would be if I got shocked. He said, it's not bad at all. When he turned to go out the door of the room, the hospital room, one of the fellows that was with him, junior doctors I call him, turned back, and he leaned over and he said, he has no idea. He doesn't have one. He's never been shocked. He said, if it shocks you, it's going to hurt. It's going to put you on the ground. And the people that I know now that have been shocked, it will knock you off your feet. But you'll be glad it did, because it will not shock you typically unless you needed it. Yeah, well, what they're going to do, they're going to set the parameters on it to such that it's going to be looking for 2 things. One, some really high, fast beats, obviously some kind of arrhythmias, whether it be on the ventricle side or on the aortic side. They'll set it for really high arrhythmias, and it may be, they'll tell you, but they may say if your heart gets up to 170 beats per minute, then it's going to shock. The thing is, your heart being so unhealthy as it is now, yeah, 60 is low, 160 is high. So see, if they set the threshold at 160, you may not reach that, so you may not get shocked. But they'll set the threshold there just out of range, and then most of the time with a weakened heart, your heart doesn't go up very high anyway unless there's a real problem. Now, one other thing that protects you from getting shocked most times is because all the rhythms they're looking for are what are called sustained rhythms, and that is they're sustained over a period of time. So your heart rate jumps up. If your heart rate were to jump up to say 170 and stay there for 4 seconds, that's not a big deal. If it's down to 155 or something within the 5th second or 6th second, you're clear, you're not getting shocked. It's looking for sustained problems. So rhythms that go up and stay up for, I would say, 20-30 seconds, or irregular heartbeats. One grouping that's rather minor really until it's not is a PVC, and that is where your heart will beat, skip a beat, then skip a few beats, then beat again. Well, the PVCs are normally not life-threatening or anything unless they're sustained. They're sustained. That means you get the same bad rhythm for minutes. That'll get you shocked. But most people do not get shocked. Honestly. I mean, they're there to do that, but most people that I experience, especially if they're getting them, they're not going to have to wear them for 20 years. They're getting them just pre-transplant. Yeah. And as long as those are not sustained, you're okay. I mean, I can lay in the bed at night pre-transplant and I get still, and I could feel the PVCs, or I could hear them. If I turned my ear a certain way on the pillow, I could hear them happening, but they're not sustained. Mine would be boom, 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 and it would pause mine would stop for 5 or 10 seconds and then hit it again. Yeah, well, here's the good part about that. Transplant's not fun. I'm not going to lie and say it is, but the good part about that is having what you probably also have is a very low heart rate at night going along with those PVCs. And if you have PVCs all night when you're trying to rest and the low heart rate all night when you're trying to rest, you don't rest. I mean, your body's recovery for the next day is the fact that it pumps enough blood flow throughout the night when you're at rest to replenish all the red blood cells and distribute them back out evenly so that you'll feel great. Instead of like you are, you're tired at night and you wake up tired. And I'll admit now, I got hung up in a habit of staying up. So it is 12:54. It's 1 o'clock here where I am, and I'm bad about staying up, and I don't mind staying up for this for a minute. But anyway, you won't rest. You won't rest. They can help you out a little bit. That pacemaker, defibrillator will help, because what they can do is if you're going down, I was going down in the 40s, and staying there all night, therefore I couldn't recover. They raised me so I wouldn't go below 70, and so I would wake up feeling more refreshed because I got enough beats in during the night of blood flow to replenish. Then they eventually put me on a CPAP machine, which I'm not that comfortable with, and I didn't think I needed. I thought CPAP folks were, people who were overweight, or I had about misunderstandings about it. Put me on a CPAP machine because I was stopping my breathing some too, and when they helped with that, wow, I mean, I wasn't fixed, but I felt better. Yeah, I felt better almost immediately once the heart rate got up and stayed up. And it would be funny because when I would go into a doctor that wasn't my cardiologist, or even my cardiologist for that matter, they get ready to check your blood pressure and your heart rate, and I would walk up and I would always say, "I bet you $10 my heart rate's 70. Bet it's 70. And they'd be like, "There's no way you can know that." I said, "I promise you, I bet it's 70. They didn't realize I had an ICD in. They're checking my heart rate over on my fingertip or something. Yeah, you have to prop up. We were very blessed that we made a move. About 4 years before my transplant, my wife and I, we bought one of those adjustable beds, one of the foam beds, really, really comfortable, but it adjusts just like a hospital bed. Legs will pop up, head will pop up, and it made all the difference because I could really get it like I wanted it. And an extra plus was when I was going in the hospital at that point, at least once a month for a week or two, it felt more like the hospital bed. You hate to say that, but I could go to the hospital bed and feel just like I did at home. Now, my bed at home felt much better, but get the same angles. I could duplicate the angle I needed in the hospital, and that helped. So you got any questions, anything you want to ask? I'll be happy to help. Are you talking about post-transplant? Yes. Post-transplant you'll have to, but I'm the same way. I was a belly sleeper a little bit. I was a side sleeper, period. I slept 6 hours, 5.5 of it was on my side. But I promise you, having your chest cut completely open and split, the bone, the rib cage, all that, the sternum split, you'll become a back sleeper instantly, and you won't mind, because it will be so much more comfortable on your back than to do anything else. If you roll on your stomach, it's awful. I mean, it's excruciating. If you roll on your side, either side, you're going to think you feel the grinding. I know this is nasty, but you're going to think you feel the grinding of that sternum that hadn't healed yet rubbing together, and it'll feel like you've been kicked by a mule, or horse. You won't want that. You'll be a back sleeper instantly. The only place it'll be uncomfortable, though, it'll be uncomfortable in the hospital, because their beds, mattresses are rubber. Really, you get on the sheet, it's rubber, and it gets hot, sticky, and you'll want to move and you can't. But there'll be enough pain there to motivate you. You won't move. You'll lay right where you're supposed to. Your choices will be to raise up in the bed or go back down in the bed or somewhere in the middle. And you'll be glad you have the hospital bed because the buttons will do that for you. How long does it hurt? You don't want me to tell you. It will hurt differently for everybody. Most people report the worst of the pain to be over with in about 3 weeks. I don't mean severe, you can't make it, but most people will find the worst of the pain to be over in about 3 weeks. However, you will have residual, aggravating, nagging pain. I would guess, and I talk to a lot of people, so it's not just me, but I talk to a lot of people about this type of stuff and answer the question if I can. You're looking at about 6 to 9 months, some as much as a year. I know at a year, I realized mine had quit hurting, and I didn't know when. I looked back and I estimated it was probably about 9 months, but at the same token, not to scare you, but I got a 72-year-old man right now that he had a bypass. He had a bypass 10 years ago, and he swears up and down his hurts now. I don't know. But the pain in the very beginning is the bone. And it's like I say, it's just that, I think it's more mental than anything, but it's that grinding feeling. And just hurts. The stitches that they put in there are going to be, or stitches or staples, either one, are going to always be pulling. They're going to start pulling quick because as that skin starts to heal, it starts to contract and tighten, naturally pulls itself together, and in doing that, it's pulling those stitches. And you got stitches inside, outside, staples, clips, wires, all that stuff. And those wires are rubbing against the back of the skin, so that can get uncomfortable. I'm not gonna play. It's hard. It's really hard. Yes, I do. And my wires are healed to a point now where they're more or less, if you wrap something around a small tree and let it grow, it eventually will grow into it. I think my wires are at that point. But in the beginning, yeah, I can feel the wires. As a matter of fact, I had one that they never proved it or was willing to prove it, but I knew what it was. It just, one little wire on my sternum just kind of had a little tit on it that was sticking up, and it would kind of hang on the back inside of my skin. And just that, you just moving like it just catch. It'd be almost like somebody taking, one hair out of your arm and just snatching that one hair. You can grab this much and nothing happens. You grab one hair and give it a snatch. It's about that quick, just that sharp. Wow, what happened to me pain. Think you got stung by a wasp or something. But you learn to work around that. You learn how not to turn quickly too. For that, nothing. They did some x-rays and didn't see where it was not coming loose. It was not anything worthy of actually opening me up for. If they had to, they would have, but it wasn't worth opening me up because of the risk of infection, especially that quickly after surgery. So, and that part of the pain subsided fairly quickly. When I got over some of the initial pain, that went with it. The drains. You're not supposed to know about the drains yet. Too early for you to know about the drains. The drains, you will have three to four drain lines in you, typically three to four drain lines in you. They'll be right at the bottom of your scar. So scar will come almost here from the, right there in the divot of your collarbones, almost just below that, about 2 inches below. It'll come all the way down and come down to the bottom of your rib cage, because obviously they're cutting all the way and they're cutting that whole sternum out. Right beneath that, there'll be 3 to 4. 3 is typical, 4 I've seen. 3 to 4 tubes about the size of this ink pen. Right there. There's my finger, there's ink pen. Pretty good size tubes, but they are flexible, they're rubberized. And they're going to be put in there during the surgery. There's going to be one stitch holding them in to keep them from getting pulled. Really no tape or anything, just that. But they'll be sticking up in, and they're drains to go into the different sides of the lungs and into the heart cavity, the sac and all. And they're just draining away blood and fluid. I mean, they're really not doing a whole lot except for they're doing everything you need right then. When they come out, and they will come out depending on how you're healing, they come out for me on the 3rd day. They were ready to come out on the 2nd. We just didn't get it coordinated between the shift changes, and so they came out on the 3rd day. It will terrify you. It's terrifying to think about, because they tell you basically, take a deep breath, don't move. We're going to snatch hard and fast. If you breathe, it'll hurt. If you move, it'll hurt worse. So, they put you in panic mode already without trying. And then they basically lay a piece of gauze over the top. I'm going to put it way up here, even though it's not way up here, if you can see it. They put a piece of gauze over the top and then just pull. And they pull hard and fast. And depending on your anatomy, you're going to have about 12 to 14 inches of hose, which is actually that much, come roping out. But they get them out quick. There's generally no pain. There may be a little pressure. They're not lying to you on that. There probably won't be any pain, but there'll be pressure. And they don't stitch them often, don't stitch them. They just stand there and hold pressure on it for 20 or 30 minutes after, and then they walk off, put a Band-Aid on it. A big Band-Aid, but a Band-Aid. Probably the most traumatic thing. If they suggest LVAD, I answer this question all the time. If they suggest LVAD, have a real talk with them about why you need it, why they think that's your only options, why they believe that that's your best way to get to transplant. LVADs are bridges to transplants. However, if you can get a transplant, generally, depending on everybody's health, but if the chances are that you can receive a transplant within 6 months without an LVAD, you don't want an LVAD. Because if you get the LVAD, and you're saying it now, if you get the LVAD, you're going to move down on the list. You'll move from wherever you are, as high as that might be, down to a status 7 while you got the LVAD. And you won't stay that way, but for six weeks to as much as 3 months, you're going to be off the list, really. You'll be status 7, so you're inactive status, but you'll be off the list. So if hearts come open, you're not getting a call. You're still trying to heal. Now, they're also going to evaluate you on a case-by-case basis. So if you're healing abnormally well, if you're adjusting abnormally well, they'll give credit for that. I met a lady last week, first one I'd met, not the first one that ever was, first one I'd ever met. Met a lady last week over at UAB Hospital. I was doing some visiting. Walked in her room. She was 4 days out of heart transplant, doing very well. But she was 4 days out of heart transplant. I started to ask her how things were going. Excuse me. She told me, and I won't want to get the dates right, but her journey, as she called it, started on August the 10th. So on August the 10th, something happened to her where she needed a transplant. By August the 16th, she got an LVAD. Didn't even know what one was. She got it. She was terrified, scared to death. She had the LVAD for a few days and got a clot, and they needed to remove the LVAD, which was going to leave her without options again. They were going to remove the LVAD, and they told her we can either remove the LVAD or a heart's going to have to show up. There's nothing else we can do. You can't tolerate the LVAD. It's gone wrong. They were threatening her with a couple of newer options, balloon pumps and stuff that would help to assist her heart that she had, but overall, she was in bad shape. Now, just a few days after, she went into surgery to have the LVAD removed, and she woke up with a new heart. That's what happened to her. Hello, cannabis cultivator. Good to see you. But yeah, she woke up with a new heart. So just an unbelievable story. Yeah, the balloon pumps are difficult just because of the, you're bedridden once they put them in, but they do the trick. I mean, it's a very simple procedure, really can be done through a catheter, but they do the trick. But that's stuff that they put in the worst of the worst. I don't know if you saw my video on status listings the other day. Maybe have, maybe not. Go back and watch it if you hadn't, but on status listing, that's the worst of the worst. If you get down to LVADs, and especially balloon pumps and impellers, that stuff's happening because they've deemed that you have like less than 6 weeks to live in some cases. Not an LVAD. You got longer with an LVAD, but they've deemed that you have far less than 6 weeks to live if they're putting in balloon pumps and impellers. Now they think after that, after that you'll have much more time to wait, but without that treatment, they've deemed it desperate, and so they're giving you the best they got. And to answer the other person's question, I am a 2013 heart transplant recipient, and I spend all of my time on YouTube advocating, educating, and trying to motivate fellow transplant patients. So if you're a transplant patient of any kind, heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas, anything like that, I know something about it. I maybe can answer some of your questions and help keep you positive. If you're not a transplant patient, I don't know what I've really got to offer you, to be honest. You can watch and chime in, but this is really for transplants. Yeah, I spend just about all my time now visiting patients face to face, or being on YouTube, not live, but being on YouTube doing videos and making information available so that people can understand transplants. And I think you just said that you had an impeller put in for about 24 hours. The beauty of an impeller is they know that it's put in there for a severe case. However, even though they know it's put in there for a severe case, they also know that it's put in there for a shorter term. So, it's going to do what it's going to do, and it can make a huge difference very quickly and get you through some things. Yeah. That's the thing about all the surgeries. And hey, I fought an LVAD. Now, if you have to have an LVAD, take it. I don't know if I ever finished answering that question, but avoid the LVAD. Get all the information you can, but at the end of it, if you have to have an LVAD, go ahead and take it, because I've got a friend that lives 15 minutes from me, right in my same hometown. He begged not to get an LVAD. I advised him not to get an LVAD. He didn't need to be off the list that long. But they basically came back and told him, hey, with your body size, he's a big guy, with your body size, with some different factors going on, we think your wait's going to be very long, and we need to put you on something where you got that chance to wait, which they gave him an LVAD, which means he's still listed status 1A, actually. But he could wait a year. So no, I won't be watching anybody's videos tonight. So I'm having a conversation with a real patient. So no videos tonight. Anything else that concerns you? Yeah, I believe that can happen too. I had my heart, I'm not trying to scare you, but I know the feeling. I had my heart perforated during a heart cath, which is what it sounds like. The actual catheter itself, when they were doing a cath post-transplant, my new heart, poked a hole through my new heart. Pinhole, a little pinhole, but enough that could have caused, it did not, but could have caused a major bleed. So there was a panic on the cath table there for just a few minutes. They were checking pressures like crazy, and if pressures had not maintained like they did, they had already called ahead for an open heart team to be assembling, which luckily I'm at a transplant center that employs over 50,000 people, and the transplant team is huge. It wasn't hard to assemble a transplant team, but that's what they were going to have to do, because they were going to have to go in, crack my chest, go in, and physically try to in some way patch that hole. But it turned out not to be that big, And so we waited things out for just a few minutes and deemed that we would be okay. I had to take it very, very easy for a while. That was only last year. I was 3.5 years out then, but it was only last year. And it hurt. I think somebody told me the heart doesn't have as many nerves. They lied. It hurt. You live in Patterson. Patterson, how far north or south of Atlanta is that? You can give me hours or miles. I don't care. About 5 hours south. Yeah. Well, the thing is, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, don't misquote me, please do your own research, but I could be wrong, the best two, I know the best two, and it may be the only two. You see, there are a lot of transplant centers out there that do other organs, but not all of them do heart and lungs, or heart or lungs. And so I've got a sister that lives in Jessup, Georgia. She's probably not all that far. She goes to Savannah to town. But you being 5 hours, that's not too far for you to be in Atlanta. And if you were to go to Atlanta, you got two choices for heart transplant hospitals, very good ones, by the way. Emory and also Piedmont Hospital. They're both good. Yeah, so you know Jessup. Nothing but a bunch of woodcutters down there. I don't know what they actually do, but a lot of people cut wood and work in the wood industry as far as logging and stuff. Yeah, I think that's your only options for transplant centers. Alabama only has one. That's UAB, but it's they're ranked like third in the nation too, so I don't mind that. I lived in Mississippi, Emory and Piedmont. Emory and Piedmont are two best, and they're great. If we ever had anybody over here that needs to be a dual listing, we have them to dual list at UAB in Birmingham and at Emory in Atlanta. Piedmont's great, don't get me wrong. Piedmont really specializes in livers. Now they do all organs, I believe, but they really specialize in liver. UAB's by far knocks it out of the park. I think the surgeries can be done in just about anywhere, but the care team at UAB, they have a very, very, very specialized care team. They have an entire wing of the hospital, entire wing that's totally devoted to heart transplants, where all the surgical rooms are there. I'm on the same floor, on the same wing. All the surgical rooms are there. All the teams assemble there. All the doctors are there. Cardiologists, all the surgeons hang out there. All of the nurse practitioners, which you see a lot of them coming around, are specially trained in post-cardiac transplant care. All the nurses on the floors are specially trained in post-cardiac transplant care. So they're called transplant nurses. These are nurses that most of them, they put them through the grueling task of working in CICU, which is the most critical cardiac unit in the whole hospital, where they take patients right out of transplant surgeries and work with them. They put them there first, and if they basically make the cut, then they'll move them to HTICU, Heart Transplant Intensive Care, which is that whole wing. And there's nothing they can't do there. They have cath labs, they have surgical rooms, they have, everything right there. So it's not a fun sight to see, but I've seen them do bedside surgeries in HTICU almost every day. Well, if you found Mumford, you've done good. Small town of about 1,800. Oh, wow. who knows, we may have crossed paths and not known it. Seen each other at a ball game or around the schools or something. Football's huge here again, so if you live here right now, you're going to be on the football game on Friday night. We're beating people by 4 and 5 touchdowns every week. Yeah, very small world. Overall, I just say, you know, do your research. Stay positive. It's not going to be what you think. It's not going to be bad. There's some moments in there, the first few weeks, where you're going to doubt. If, you know, transplant comes, you're going to doubt every bit of it. I did it a lot, do it, you know, where I doubted myself. I'd be laying on the couch feeling like trash, saying, boy, I should have left well enough alone. I think I'd gotten a couple years out of my heart if I'd left it alone anyway. I just should have took that. But now, I'm 4.5 years out. Things are still not perfect, but there's no doubt I wouldn't be alive with my old heart now. And so I've kind of moved out of that place. And there's no doubt I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. Not perfect, but I never had the ability and energy and stamina that I do now. I would watch my program on, you probably already have, but if you haven't, watch my program entitled The Emotional Experience. Find that one. The Emotional Experience. I talk about specifically, I think 24, 25 different emotions that you'll feel right around the time of transplant and post. Happy and sad is some of that. Mad is some of that. Anger. You know, just you'll walk around with a blank stare a lot. I mean, it's a roller coaster, and some would say, well, it's so different for everybody, and I think it is as far as when you feel those emotions, but I think it's very, very much the same as far as the emotions you will eventually feel. You'll feel a lot of guilt, and that guilt will come because you know someone has lost their life, but that guilt will also come because you all of a sudden you feel good and you feel happy, but you feel bad about feeling happy. I even illustrate it by admitting that when I was waiting on transplant, when the lifesaver helicopters would fly over the house, we would kind of get excited and come inside and sit near the phone thinking that, hey, if somebody's been in a bad enough accident and have to fly over there in a helicopter, you know, I may get a call in a little while. That's bad to say, but it's where you get that desperate. And it's not that you don't care. Yeah, you feel guilty, but at the end of the day, you are the best connection that family, that potential donor family is ever going to have to their loved one again. And you're going to be a huge, if they'll let you reach out to them and you're willing to, and in time, and I've got videos on that, but if you will do that in time, you will be the biggest blessing, the biggest asset that they have. And it'll feel surreal. It won't feel real, but it'll, you know, it will be good. Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. I mean, I try to have a connection with all transplant patients, heart, lung, liver, kidneys, pancreas, but in the end of the day, it's the heart and lung patients that have to have a deceased cadaver organ. And the rest of them may or may not have that. And they can have living donors or portions of half livers and stuff. They can have some donors other ways, but not us. I'm a big proponent of organ donation, and you can't always do enough, obviously, but it's amazing. Once most people grow up and go through their whole life, and they never know anyone that's actually had a transplant. They may have, oh, I heard of so and so, but they've never been face to face. Immediately when you go on the transplant list, you're going to have family and friends that you didn't even consider that are going to start saying, hey, I never thought about it before, but because of you, I'd like to be a donor. Or especially once you get your transplant, they're going to start waking up and saying that they want to be a donor because they saw you live life. And yeah, there's some videos out there that say all kind of crazy stuff. I don't know specifically what you've seen, but there are a set of videos out there that try to discourage people from becoming donors. They give reasons like, not a lot more reasons, but reasons such as, oh, they won't save your life. They won't do everything they can for you if you say you're going to be a donor. That's absolutely not true. A real doctor, I think almost all doctors do the best they can to save a life. They like to be heroes. They got into the job for the adrenaline flow of being a hero. And on top of that, if you really want to get technical about it, your heart doesn't come from a dead guy. It will, but it doesn't. Your heart will come from someone that they've been able to maintain well enough to, whether it be by complete, mechanical life support or not, they've been able to keep his organs functioning, mechanically, whatever, and especially keeping their brain functioning as best it can. They may, and that's probably what they'll be. They'll be what we call brain dead. But if the hearts, the lungs, if all those organs are still not functioning, pretty much doing their job, then yeah. But they're working to keep that body animated as long as they can to keep those organs viable if they come up. And yes, they don't even talk. There's a lot of protocol in place that prevents them from talking to the families before they have any surety that there's, until they're sure, but there's no function. And they test and test and test for that. And then it's totally optional for the families. They encourage the families. I know from talking to the donor families that I haven't heard a donor family yet tell me we felt pressured. All of them now have a connection with the people who came and asked for the organs. Like, I'm glad they came in and asked. They come in and say, okay, I banned that guy that was putting up funny comments. He wasn't funny. I thought I could do that. I got him. But anyway, they say that the people who came in to ask for those organs were super nice, that they felt like they had a connection with them. As a matter of fact, my donor's mother, and I'm 4.5 years since he died, since I got my heart. My donor's mother is still friends with a lady at the Oklahoma Donor Association where my heart came from. She's still friends with her. Because in her eyes, this lady was there when they needed it. This lady knew what to say. This lady knew how to help them deal with the trauma. This lady made them decide what to do to help with that death. And eventually put them in touch with me. We talk every week. Me and my donor's mother talk every single week. We talk on Sunday nights. We just got in the habit of doing that. I'll call her on Sunday night. We'll talk usually for an hour or so. I also have a little relationship with his 3 sisters, albeit not as much as with the mother. The mother's who I stick with closest. It's weird to begin with. You got to find something to talk about. Because conversation can't always be, well, tell me about the night your son got killed. Or, and you can't spend all your time saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, because what you're really saying is thank you, thank you, thank you that your son died. So you've got to learn to celebrate in your own way while mourning with them at the same time. It's a balancing act. I'm worried I can't do that, but at the same time I know I will need to. You'll be able to do it. It's an overtime thing. It's nothing that will come really quick. It's something that will need to take time, and so I don't think it will be as much of a worry by then. I suggest that we don't contact our donor families until we're at least out of the hospital. And by out of the hospital, I mean all the way home, which is generally 6 to 12 weeks. That gives us time to heal enough to where we can honestly say, hey, I feel great. Because I tell you, if I had to write a letter to my donor 2 days after transplant, it wouldn't have been a nice letter. I was still hurting too bad. I was still dreading what had been done too much. So you want to wait until, you want to wait 6 to 12 weeks. But there is no state, as far as I know, has any limitations on when you can write. It used to be wait a year. I got a video on that too. But it used to be that you had to wait a year, but now there's no limit. You can write as soon as you come out of surgery if you want to, but it's probably not the best practice. But when you've got that 6 to 12 weeks, you got a long time to think. They're going to be giving you some information, handwritten information you can read that tells you what are the requirements of the letter, how to write the letter, that sort of thing. There's a few things online you can find. I think I literally have the only video on YouTube, period, on the subject. But they give you written information. And basically that's how my whole channel is. My whole channel is made up of information you don't find anywhere else, because it's either a doctor talking about it or it's a patient who's just telling their great story of transplant. I'm the only guy who tells, here's how it is, here's how you live it. Educational wise, but without that medical mumbo jumbo. But I tell you what, if you're ready, we've been talking 63 minutes on this one, and it is 1:30 here, so 2:30 where you are. So unless you have anything real special, I'll get off this one here for now. Yeah, I think a lot of people are liking the sick guy. I had a school teacher, friend of mine who's transplant. She had just went back to work, and she actually showed that video publicly to her students to remind them, you don't want to kill your teacher. It's not a problem at all. Not a problem. When I saw you come on, I was trying to help. I couldn't get everything lined up. And then when I saw you shoot a message, something about you'd love for me to stream again, I said, well, I'll stream. I don't have to have, I'm not on here streaming trying to find 500 people to talk to. I more or less got on here to see if I could get it to work, and if I could catch a person or two to help tonight, I would. So you're her. You're it. And hopefully I have helped. But if you want to, you know, if you have any questions or whatever, you know, you found me already on Facebook. You know where my YouTube channel is. I guess you subscribe to that already. And if you are a subscriber on that, hit that bell notification over there too. That way when videos come out, it'll tell you instead of you having to stumble across them. But that'll help a little bit. But if you have any questions, you let me know, and I'll either answer them like this face to face, or text back and forth, or I'll make a video about it. I won't call you out necessarily, but I'll make a video about it if I know something about it, and share it, and then a lot of people can be helped, and you're becoming a part of the community and doing that. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go for tonight. I got to get a little bit of sleep over here in Alabama, and I know you do at Georgia time. So you get some rest, and hit me up if you need anything, okay? All right. Thank you, Miss Etta, Miss Kaysen. Stay stronger.